I would like to think that I can count far enough to confirm we have a quorum. So unfortunately, we have to have a meeting. I'd like to start with our usual moment of silence, followed by the pledge of allegiance. We'll all stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. All right. Welcome to all the members of the public. Thank you for your continued interest in Gotham. Are there any comments or questions at this time? All right, well, then we can move on to customer recognitions. I think. Jenny.
Good morning, Chairman Denison, the Board of Directors, Mr. Frazier, Carter colleagues, and the public. I'm Janine McNulty, the Director of Human Resources, and I'm excited to recognize our May Ambassador Award recipient this morning. I had the great pleasure of meeting and learning a little bit more about our May recipient, Mr. Matt Grubbs, who is currently a fixed route driver with Carter for almost 9 years. Matt moved to Chattanooga about 10 years ago after operating and owning his own company, Discover Annapolis Tours in Annapolis, Maryland. He quickly dived into learning everything he could about Chattanooga, its rich history, and remains active in the community and has a great interest in the foundational aspects of our city's infrastructure, growth, transportation needs, and the people of Chattanooga. He has been seen on several occasions cleaning the bus stop areas around town while waiting for our passengers to board on the bus. He feels that this is the right thing to do, and he takes pride in our city. Along with going beyond in this area, he also will collect lost items that are not retrieved from passengers once they've been contacted to see if they have lost items. He takes them home, cleans them, sorts them out, and then he donates the clothing that is worthy of being saved to a local charity. For the other items, some of the outerwear, the hats, gloves, umbrellas, he acquires those, he keeps them on the bus with him, and he gives them out to our passengers as the need arises. A cold day with a passenger without a glove, without gloves or a hat, or maybe a rainy day, as we know we have a lot of those around here, who may not have an umbrella, and he gives them one of those items. He describes his favorite part about working with Carta as an opportunity to help people every day. He shared with me some of his intentional ways that he likes to interact with our passengers. A few of those is that he makes sure that he greets everybody who comes on the bus. He always says thank you when receiving their payments. He allows them to be seated comfortably in the bus before he leaves. And he likes to make sure that when he does leave, he takes a smooth start and avoids any sudden braking. In his spare time, he loves to garden, and he would probably be more than happy to share with you pictures of his flowers. And his flower gardens definitely prove that he's good at gardening. He also sings in the church choir and volunteers to drive kids to church on Wednesday nights. We are lucky to have Matt as part of the Carter team and would like to recognize him this month for our May Ambassador Award.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you.
Hearing about that gardening stuff, my wife would be pleased that you would teach me some skills.
Can I just quickly say, I've witnessed all of that firsthand. Matt's been my operator quite a few times, and every bit of that is true. I've seen him cleaning, I've seen him be extraordinarily patient with riders and just so welcoming. So thank you, Matt. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Didn't you mention about the rain? How long have you been living in this town?
For 3 months yesterday.
So I've been here for like 3 years, a little bit, so not that experienced. But at least I would like to offer you words of consolation. This has been extraordinary wet time. It's not always like this.
Well, I came from Texas where, we are oftentimes in a drought, so. But I love the rain. That's what makes things.
Oh,
great.
maybe-
One of the reasons I love Tennessee.
Maybe you brought the rain because, law of averages, if you've been in a place where it's dry, now you're gonna be in a place that's wet, so it's your fault.
It's great for garden.
That's been a lot of rain. Wow. Okay. So thank you for that, Janine. Our next topic, I'd like to ask our CEO to introduce our guest presenter.
Yes, good morning, Chair Dennison, good morning, Board of Directors. We have a guest speaker today, Kate Cipriano. Kate, if you want to come up here to the main stage. We've been partnering and getting to know Kate. He is the Vice President of the Community Association of Historic St. Elmo. And we've had a nice partnership, and so invited Kate today to introduce himself, introduce the association, and just share a few words. Here's a clicker for you if you want to click through your slides as well. So floor is yours, sir.
Good morning and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for having us here. So I am the Vice President of the Community Association of Historic St. Elmo. This organization, if any of you know the area of St. Elmo at the foot of Lookout Mountain, this organization was established in 1968 as the St. Elmo Improvement League and was renamed in 92 when that community became a local historic district. It's led by a directly elected professional board that operates as a 501. So we wear kind of two hats. On one hand, we have the function as a traditional neighborhood association as designated by the city. On the other hand, as a 501, we kind of operate as like a lobbyist light for all of the businesses, the small business interests there, as well as interacting with the local municipal offices for interests of the residents. This is the neighborhood, the footprint of our area. It's a little bigger than some people think. It has 11 churches in it, which is quite a bit for an old neighborhood. It has 9 trailheads, 8 parks, and has the Virginia Greenway and the Riverwalk extension. Also has Glen Falls there, which is a really cool attraction. And then, of course, we have the Incline Railway, which is a great opportunity for a partnership with CARTA. Importantly, I would say, here's the information on who you guys serve as CARTA in our neighborhood. So 3,500 residents, over 1,700 residences. The neighborhood is both healthy from a historical standpoint and growing. So we have this really great wide spectrum of diverse demographics that include a lot of older residents, people of all different like races and ethnicities, different income levels now. And because of that mid-20s to late 30s organic turnover in the neighborhood, you have families starting to develop in that neighborhood now. And a lot of those younger people are very interested in transit, which is why this partnership is so ripe for development. The residents and property owners and the small businesses fall under our purview, and there's 75 small businesses, not big businesses, not like Chatham Chemicals or Food City, 75 small businesses, and over 9 out of 10 of them are within 1 block of your route, CARTA, running right down the middle of our neighborhood. So as the nonprofit that works as the official neighborhood association, this is our area of focus, which is how we structure. So we have a committee structure, like I'm sure you guys do and lots of other people do. We focus on zoning and development with the city, capital improvement, which is these things in the area like our parks, or we have like a little small town hall at the old fire hall that we like to improve. We have events, we have 2 big anchor events, one that we just partnered with you guys on, Hello St. Elmo, which brings in 2,000 people last year, a little over 1,500 this year into the area. Feast Day to highlight our area nonprofits. And then traffic and transit is a big one here, safety and security, working with CPD, and then finance, because money has to keep things going, right, for everyone. So the CARTA partnership, I would say, and I'm not in any way trying to blow smoke, We work with a lot of municipal offices. We've been told that we're the most active of all the neighborhood associations. By far, the most productive and promising conversations that we have had with any office in the city is with Carta. And I think that is a testament to Charles's leadership and to all of you guys for your support and what you're trying to do here. We partnered on Hello St. Elmo as kind of an early pilot of what we could do together, and I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to do even more. Some of those things I outlined here that we discussed, so promotion of Carta services, direct communications with neighbors, the short-term vacation rentals, which there are a lot in that area, we think are very promising because those people want to use transit, they just don't know about it. And realtors that are trying to sell the amenities of an area. There's a big housing boom in St. Elmo, both with turnover of existing stock and new houses being built. And so we want to make sure people know about the resource of Carta in the area. Improving feedback and service, commuter use of the shuttle. So we have the shuttle that goes down St. Elmo, and we've talked about small tweaks to that could help it shift from just an occasional use to being able to get people from point A to point B on time for work, which would be very helpful in the downtown area. Co-promotional opportunities. We have new Lookout Stadium that is coming. It's going to be anchored right on the footstep of our neighborhood, and talking about ways that we can get both neighbors and people that stay in the neighborhood to go to those games to utilize Carta. And then supporting transit priorities. We want to be not just an asker and a taker, but a giver as well. So we want to hear what you need from us and how we can be a voice in support of those things. One of those big things we think is on the horizon for us is an ongoing priority with traffic and transit, and that's the multimodal future of St. Elmo Avenue. So I'm missing a slide here, but I'll mention it, that I would be remiss if I didn't say that St. Elmo is very focused on the safety of St. Elmo Avenue because we have a speeding and a crash problem. So we have about a couple cars a week have a crash and exit the roadway, which is actually hindering the usage and the perception of usage of those bus stops and that for multimodal transit. So we really want to partner with Carta about increasing the usability and safety of St. Elmo Avenue for multimodal transit. And that's my spiel. So thank you all very much for having me.
Thank you.
Any questions for Kate or comments?
You set a great example.
No, thanks very much.
I would just say two things for the board briefly. Number one, I want to give a shout out to Councilwoman Dotley. When we did her windshield tour, she was so prepared. She had sent a note to all of the community associations, the neighborhood associations. And if you recall, she came with like questions. Like during the windshield tour, she wanted to know, and St. Elmo was by far, they had the most questions for us. And then a feedback on that adjustment to Route 15. It was great to sit with Kate and understand that if we could just tweak the schedule a little bit and get people downtown 15 minutes earlier, that they would be able to use it for commuting. And so we will get that implemented in the August markup. So we're excited about that, but really appreciate you coming and saying a few words.
Yes, thank you so much. And a special thanks to Brandon and the team for all the help with Hello St. Elmo bringing out the Dolly bus. It was a big success. Carta was, seen as kind of an anchor at the event, both for kids and families. And I do just want to close and say that for like the first time, I would say, I've been here for almost 5 years, been serving on the board for 3 of those years. Residents of St. Elmo are excited about mass transit. So that's a great thing.
Great, thank you very much.
Good morning, sir. Welcome. Are there any comments or corrections or additions to the minutes of our last meeting that we distributed? This board is very lethargic this morning.
Give them a minute. Give them a minute.
Is there a motion in support of adopting the minutes? Yes. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes seem to be, well, Dina, thank you. Apparently the recorder produced. Staff updates, please. Janine. Human resources, thank you.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
Morning.
So we're gonna talk a little bit about HR overview and kind of some strategies that I've been working on since I've been here almost 3 months. So this will be our agenda. We'll be going over a little bit of background on myself, recruitment, retention, training, development, performance management, compensation, benefits, employee relations, compliance, and then our first quarter employee data. So a little bit about myself. I am a native Texan who fell in love with Chattanooga when I would come to visit, and that's why I'm here. I have over 20 years of experience in HR, about 13 of that in leadership. And some things I really like to focus on is employee engagement, cost savings, obviously compliance, making sure we're compliant, fair, and accountability. And so my goal for our HR department here is I feel like we are the customer service for our employees, and that is extremely important to me that that is what we are providing here at Cardiff for our team members. So recruitment and retention, currently I'm looking at the different vendors that we are using for potential cost savings. Just kind of digging in and diving in what vendors are working well, maybe where we could make some improvement. I've created some standardized HR screening questions and some candidate templates because we didn't really have that in place. So if I was a candidate who applied, I didn't necessarily hear anything. And so we now are making sure that we're having that communication so that they're being informed along the process. We just finished our employee satisfaction survey. That's completed. We're currently reviewing the data for next steps. Partnering with Chattanooga 2.0 under the chamber for an apprenticeship program. And very soon you will see these signs in some of our buses on the outside and then inside, just as another way to help promote our recruitment efforts for the positions that we do. Training and development, working really closely with Mark Logan, our new chief safety officer, related to safety and training, getting some standardized orientations in place. And just maybe we have orientation every 2 weeks. We're actually rolling out a new program this next Monday, where we'll have a little bit more structure moving forward with our current practices. And then succession planning will be coming. Haven't worked on that yet, but we know that we have some long-term tenured employees here. And so I want to look at succession planning for replacing those positions. Performance management, the board last year, my understanding is that y'all asked that mid-year evaluations were completed on all the administrative staff. Those have all been completed and now tracking for future for any new leadership and then for future for when we get to end of the year. I've
I want to
also,
ask you, it's one of my big things. Let's really make sure that the system continues to build momentum and becomes fully entrenched. And valid exercise, it's aimed at confirming the right outcomes and not just an administrative rubber stamp process.
right, absolutely.
Otherwise, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, it's a waste of time. No, I agree 100%. Yeah, absolutely. And then I've been meeting and partnering with the leaders in the organization just to kind of, what's working well, what's not working well, how can HR be more supportive to them, and understanding the whole organization as a whole in each of the different departments. And then working on creating some standardized corrective action documents so that we're kind of all on the same page with that. Compensation and benefits, currently reviewing our current practices and processes related to our benefits. We do now have twice a month an on-site DOT physician that comes in and does on-site DOT physicals. This is a cost savings as well as a time savings because the employees can just go straight here and have their DOT physicals completed. We'll be working on a compensation analysis in the near future. And then I've already been reviewing policies and stuff, but have created a few policies related to relocation and sign-on bonuses for those in leadership roles that we offer.
So what's happening there? Is that a sign-on bonus being handed over?
No, I think that's just an award that he was probably given. Employee relations, once again, we created and rolled out the initial employee satisfaction survey. Just completed the ALICE conference under United Way, and that's for asset limited, income constrained, and employed. And this is just kind of really to help us gauge an understanding of our workforce, which we actually came in as a pretty low percentage in comparison to other entities on the number that fall into that ALICE category. But then what resources can we potentially offer our employees that they may not be aware of that is available to them within the community? Taking over as the Ambassador Award Committee leader, Brandon made up some really great flyers, so we've posted that, so really starting to get a little bit more of people nominating their coworkers and things, so really hoping to continue to build that so that we can recognize those that are serving our passengers. We do have our CARTA Ambassador Graduation Ceremony coming up on Friday, May 30th at 2 p.m. Be here.
A quick note on that, sorry to interrupt you. We did just confirm that Councilwoman Dotley will be the keynote speaker at the graduation on that day, so we'll send out that notice for you if you're able to attend. We'll be graduating 22
new hires.
new hires we got off of our schedule, and so this will become a quarterly, but we're catching up. But Councilwoman Dotley will be the keynote for that, and we'll get it on your calendars.
And then compliance, once again, new, kind of learning all the things about CARTA and the HR department, and just kind of digging into reviewing and revising the policies. Still have a few more to go. And then just reviewing our current HR processes related to compliance in areas of like our FMLA, our workers' comp, job descriptions, employee files. So, really focused on having, a set standard across the board for expectations and making sure that we are remaining compliant. And then a little bit of information about this is our first quarter employee data. So we've had 20 new hires the first quarter, 13 separations, and we currently have 14 vacancies. Questions or anything that I could potentially answer?
So excited. I got several questions.
Okay.
But let me just start right here.
Okay.
We have not been in a position to get some of this HR data in quite some time, so I'm grateful that you took time, and it seems like in this short 3 months, you've had an opportunity to kind of delve into all of the different areas.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you for your work on that.
Suspend your disbelief, she just makes it up.
And it is good to see this data here as well, so we kind of understand where y'all are sitting on vacancies and understanding how those are moving across the organization. Just kind of going back on the survey, what was the rate of participation there? And how did we encourage employees to share their?
So we had about a 30% participation, so not near as much as we would have liked to have had. Because our current non-admin employees do not have a CARTA email, that is something that we were working on. They were given paper surveys with an envelope to seal it back in and then make sure that it came back to me. And so entering that data, the administrative staff filled out a survey that was sent to them electronically, and then all the data was entered in there collectively so that we could look at the different ratings, 1 through 5, agreed, disagreed, those types of things, and then comments. There were a lot of comments, which is good. We, as Mr. Frazier would say, we have some work to do. So the executive team is currently kind of reviewing that data, and obviously we'll be coming back at some point to kind of share some of those next steps, action plans on how we can improve some of the areas that we're seeing.
That's good to hear, especially on the comments, and I'll wait to kind of understand what action plans you and Charles put in place for that. And then the next one, I just wanted to mention again around the safety component, when you talked about the new hires, et cetera. Just want to stress to you and to Mr. Logan how important it is for us to have a focus on safety. The second one for me is always customer service, but making sure, especially when I hear that we got 20, you said 20 new hires is coming in from the
22, I believe.
22.
Yes.
Making sure that there is a strong safety component with those new hires, and that is embedded from like the first day they step foot here moving forward. So I encourage you and Mr. Logan to be working on that. Kind of give us some updates as you deem necessary. 2 more questions. On the section about the performance management, I know that previously you worked on ensuring that those policies were in place to make sure you had a mid-year, and at the time when we came onto the board, there was not a set annual performance. So I also want to encourage, and it's kind of repeating some of what Johan kind of mentioned, An emphasis too on customer service, but also making sure that we're just not going through the motions.
Right.
Because this is something that's kind of new for this organization, so that they understand why we're doing performance management, why we are all focused on the same goals and where they are throughout the year relative to those goals. And so the reason why I want to mention that to you is 3 months in, I'm sure you would have been surprised when we came in as a board, not even having
Yeah.
anything from performance management. So I want to make sure that you understand this organization is fresh and new to having these type of standards. So I don't want it to be something that's kind of glazed over, that you're taking time and explaining to them and also to Charles as well. But just want to make sure you understand kind of where we were and where we're looking to go from a company perspective. Otherwise, all the things that Charles is trying to do, all the things that we're trying to put in place or try to do, really won't work if we don't have people who are committed to goals and understand where it is and what it is that needs to be doing to make sure that those are done effectively.
Absolutely.
Auntie, if I could just add, thank you for elaborating on that. If I could just add. In my experience. Performance appraisal systems in organizations. Require constant energy to be sustained. Their natural order of things is just to be passive. And that's the time when it tends to be one of those administrative bureaucratic things, oh, you need to do that, can you do the performance review like on the 32nd of December just to get it done? And it's just a waste of everybody's time. What we are trying to do here is to build a high performance winning organization. And that only works if over a sustained period, you have very clear targets that are quantifiable and measurable. And then you track performance against those targets, whether it's by division, department, or at the individual. So you can course correct. People often think that performance appraisal systems are so you can punish people. No, we want to achieve success as an organization. And if you track measurement and measure against the target, you can identify gaps.
Right.
And you can course correct. That's what we want to do.
Yeah.
So that we can become a high performance organization that is meeting the needs of this community. So it's central to our mission.
Understood. Yeah, I agree and understand. 100%. You can't just, like I said, check the box, it's done, and then forget about it. You have to have follow-up. And one of the conversations I've had with some of the managers as I've met with them initially is like for new hires, they really should be doing like a 30, 60, 90-day check-in with them, like not waiting until the 90-day probationary period and addressing concerns, like having those check-ins those first, few months so that you can, the good, the bad, where are they performing well, where are there some gaps? So we can identify them and help coach and mentor them to get to where we need them to be.
Waiting
So,
until you fail is not a good recipe for success.
exactly.
If pilots had to wait until they crash before they try to correct the plane, it would not be good.
Don't want to be on that plane.
I have another, also thank you for the presentation. My comment is more granular and it's not like a question. I would like to hear your thoughts about retention. One of the things that I don't know how many years we've been here, but back in the day, one of the questions that we had was about retention, and how like the workers that they were newer, we have a less retention time instead of like the older people that have been here for more time. So have you seen something or have thoughts about how we increase retention?
Honestly, in other organizations, that's not uncommon, that typically when you're looking at your retention rates, typically your 1 to 2 years is going to be where you have the most turnover. That's not uncommon in any industry. So I think with us rolling out the employee satisfaction survey, so because we had to have a starting point of what are we doing well, where are some areas that we need to improve upon. And as we review that, I think that's going to be key so that if we start to see some trends, and we have just from looking at some of the comments and the ratings on the survey, we recognize that there are some areas that we're seeing a pattern that potentially could be a cause of some of our retention and loss of employees. I think also along with Mark's focus on the safety, improving the safety or accidents incidents as having a structured employee orientation onboarding experience from the very beginning of, like I said, we didn't have any kind of communication to somebody who applied for a position. It was just crickets. And that is not a good representation of our organization. So now they're being communicated throughout the process. So even if they're not selected, they at least know. They're not just waiting for an email or a phone call to say, hey, we appreciate you, but unfortunately, we're gonna pass. So that, for me, that's key beginning, because those are people out in the community who are applying. And then we continue that through the onboarding process of making sure we're having good communication, communicating to people in the organization that these are the new hires. I have some things that I'm working on, I haven't rolled out yet, that I want to do to kind of introduce our new employees throughout the organization, so they know a little bit about them, so people know who are our new employees, what are some things that, you know, that they enjoy. Because you will lose a new employee very early on if they do not have a good onboarding experience. And that starts from the beginning of the candidate through the onboarding, the safety, the training, the orientation, all of those things. And then the follow-up with the managers, you know, with my conversations with them, don't just bring them on and kind of leave them hanging and then, oh, 90 days, well, you're not working out so well, so we're going to go our separate ways. No, you have to give them an opportunity to know what's working well, what's not, and having those, you know, check-ins with them. That will also lead to a better retention, in my opinion, in my experience. So, definitely, yeah, it's definitely on my radar. Thank you. Anything else?
I have one last
Okay.
question. Going to the compensation and benefits.
Yes, ma'am.
I know that you all have been working on the analysis of compensation as well. I did have a question about the reload and bonuses.
Mhm.
From your experience, do you feel like that is something that we need to focus on to bring in talent? Or I was just trying to figure out, I saw it was listed, but I wasn't sure kind of what's your thoughts of what
Yeah,
you're saying.
so what we're doing is for some leadership roles of maybe, you know, in order to, as Charles often says, you know, we have to fix the foundation and getting the right people at the seat so that we can move the organization forward. For some of those key positions, like, you know, our COO that we just recently started, that you'll meet, I'm sure, shortly. We sometimes, you know, they're like me, I came from Texas, you know, like maybe we're not finding them right here in Chattanooga. And so it's not uncommon for organizations to offer those types of things, to be able to bring in that talent to have those seats. We didn't really have anything standardized, as far as we had nothing. And so now we have a standardized policy of what does that look like if I'm relocating from 500 miles away compared to 5,000 miles away. So we kind of have a structure, we have an agreement that they have to sign, that if they leave within a certain amount of time, they have to pay it back or a portion of it back. So just kind of putting some of those in place. So this would be more for like our leadership positions. Does that answer?
No, it helped.
Okay. Fine. Anything else?
Any other comments or questions? I'd like to ask about the separations.
Yes, sir.
Do we know why the people decided to leave?
Some of them, yes. There are some that were involuntary. I mean, and if you like, the next time I report it, I could break that down from like what's voluntary and involuntary.
Yeah, I was
Or
curious.
maybe just have like a consent agenda on a quarterly basis or something that just goes into the board packet. Yeah.
Do you do an exit survey? I know you're not always able to do it depending on how.
Yeah,
they
we do
leave,
have
but
an exit interview that we do.
Okay.
Voice, yes, ma'am.
maybe
And,
something.
the 20 new hires, so that see the big hire people.
Yes.
Where did we get all the folks from?
A variety. So when you look at some of the admin staff, I mean, I would be one included in that for the first quarter. Mr. Logan would be one. You know, we're recruiting obviously on our website. We have jobs posted on Indeed. Leadership roles we're posting on LinkedIn. We've used Apta different, and that's one of the things as I'm reviewing some of the vendors, like what really makes the most sense from a cost savings, that we're gonna get basically the biggest bang for our buck. And then having the conversation with Scott, so you say like, could we potentially put something on our buses? Our buses are going all over the city all the time. And so Brandon and his team was able to create that, the marker that will be on some of the buses. You know, it's an inexpensive way for us to advertise that we are hiring and for them to go to our website to see the positions that are open. So just, you know, always trying to think outside the box, working with some of the local universities. Sometimes they will have places where you can post jobs for free. maybe somebody who's coming out of college. So I like to think outside the box and save money in the process.
Any other ones?
I see you've got 13 separations. And you've got 20 new hires. But I do notice that of those new hires, there's not any incline. Are we waiting until we reopen
Yeah, we don't,
for those new hires?
yeah, we currently don't have any income positions posted.
How many folks are, just remind me, I knew, but I forgot. How many folks work on income?
I honestly do not know the answer to that.
Director Higgins is here.
There's a total of 8 full-time employees that they find.
Okay.
And what are, so there's 6 left together.
Well, right now, we have a full staff. We just got our last employee that will be going through the orientation on Monday. So we'll have a full staff when we open back up.
And what are the folks doing in the meantime?
We're still working on rebuilding shields. We're getting cable off and trying to get ready to install some new cable once the track people, rail works get done with their work.
I think to Director Nye's point, I think we probably have new hires in incline, but maybe they're not listed. Is that,
Oh,
because we did hire recently.
Okay.
Yeah, roger that.
yeah.
They were just
Could have been the
discussing this
10
week.
questions that they better write up.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Informative, appreciate it.
And if I may, Chair Dennison, board members, you'll recall when we had my evaluation, one of the areas that you had asked for was an opportunity to meet the leadership team and hear from them directly about the different disciplines, for example, HR. So this is, us trying to be very responsive to your needs and wants about information that are going on. So you can anticipate at these monthly meetings that we would have one of the leaders come up and present their areas of responsibility moving forward. And I'll move on. Okay, great. I don't know if you're in. Good morning again, Chair Dennison, Board of Directors. It's my pleasure to provide you with several updates this morning. We'll start with incline railway restoration. Happy to let you know that a lot of work has gone on. We've been sidelined since December 7th and the fire. And the team, really thanks to our incline director, Matthew Higgins, we remain in 100% lockstep with safety under Mark Logan. So we've got 100% compliance with our safety and certification plan. And that's critically important for us to keep in mind as we're restoring the system. All the materials necessary for the repairs have now been delivered. I do want you to know that some of the timber was delayed significantly. So that has shifted our schedule slightly, but allow me just to run you through kind of some of the details here. So the concrete footers are completely repaired. The timber and rail are about 90% complete. And that work for the rail and timber should be wrapped up the last week of May. So we're right around the corner from that being wrapped up. And then Matthew and his team will start the arduous task of stringing the new cable. And just as a reminder, the team will be following a new procedure for that cable installation because of the location of the cars themselves. We don't have one at the top and one at the bottom. They're off kilter a little bit. And so we'll be going through a new process and we have given some additional slack time for that schedule. So the team will also, as part of that installation, be shortening the cable. So we'll be running the system quite a bit to get that cable to stretch out as it naturally does, and then going through the process of shortening it in real time. And so right now, our reopening is scheduled for no later than Monday, July 14th. And if it's possible, we would open a little bit earlier, but that's kind of the no later than date. So that's what we're communicating to the public. That's what we're communicating to our partners at Sea Rock City. And we'll also be working on the preventive maintenance items All of that timber came in and it's already been delivered, so Railworks will be going through completing that preventive maintenance work, which will allow us to stay open all through calendar year 2026 without closing down for that preventive maintenance. As I reported last month, other improvements continue on at the lower and upper station, including construction of the ADA restrooms. Those are open. They were open for the Hello St. Elmo celebration. Painting, everything's been freshly painted. It looks really nice. The fence replacement along the track lines, the lower station has all been done. Looks great there. We will be replacing the flooring at the upper station, so that gives all those stairwells new replacement. So that's all going to be clean and looking great, safe, most importantly. And then we continue to work on the design solution for air cooling and the dry pipe fire mitigation systems. That work has been a little bit slower because the team has been so focused on the restoration piece. But those things are coming along and we will have some solutions to present. But that's my update for incline restoration, and I would take any questions if you have on this topic before I go.
Great work.
There's a question from the public. Okay.
No, just, St. Elmo is obviously very interested in the incline, reopening. I know that, it's very important for the business there. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but you mentioned that no later than date of July 14th. Is there a realistic scenario where you think, especially because of the income potential, that maybe the weekend, 8-9 days prior to July 4th weekend would be such a huge ticket sale? And then to add a little incentive there, if we can make it for that weekend, Case will commit to funding entirely and co-hosting a launch party for.
Yeah, thank you for that. The incentive is great. Our priority, just to be 1000% clear, thank you for the question. Our priority is safety, first and foremost. And so that will be the decision factor for us. Because we use federal dollars and because it's a rail system in the state of Tennessee, we are required to partner with state safety oversight. So we are engaged. That's Mark Logan's role. We are 1000% in lockstep with them, but it will require a sign off from state safety oversight as well. So love the opportunity. And if I had a magic wand, we would love to open next week. This is the high season for us. And so we really want to be open sooner than later. My direction to the team is safety first, and then we will open as soon as possible. But thank you very much for the opportunity. And if we can meet that, we will partner with you. So let's just take a note, if we can, Brandon. Let's keep in very close contact, and we'll have weekly updates that we can provide to our board and the public, and we'll keep our eye on it.
Thank you.
Okay, if no other questions,
So I would just like to comment.
yes.
It's been a complicated project, and I thank you for your leadership. I know many complexities that we don't even discuss here, but I am aware of that you've resolved almost like a day-to-day ongoing project. From trucks falling off the road to procurement of timber, it seems to be an ongoing saga. So thank you for leadership on that. And I would say that the idea of a party sounds a nice one, but we can have a party on any day.
Thank you for those kudos, but frankly, I have to give praise to Director Higgins, Assistant Director Houston Duke, and the team. Like they are leading this, and my role, and also Mark Logan as well, and procurement, Annie. I mean, this is a team effort. I see myself as my goal is to understand what their needs are and get roadblocks out of their way. But this is the team that's being successful. Allow me to transfer that praise to the folks doing the work. But I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. I want to give you an update. I was going to do this last month, but we just got short on time. As part of our strategic imperative focused on funding and partnerships, Scott Wilson and I traveled to Washington, D.C. Last month for a very productive meeting with the Federal Transit Administration staff. And so we met in person with Associate Administrator Jamie Pfister. She's on the bottom right there. And virtually the Region 4 staff who we report to, including Dr. Yvette Taylor from Atlanta, who I've worked with previously, both in Jacksonville and Palm Beach County, met with them remotely, and so if you see on the left-hand photo there, it's me, and then right next to me is Dr. Taylor and her team. Those are who we report to at the FTA Region 4, and they are in Atlanta. The primary objective of the meeting was to formally reintroduce CARTA to our partners at FTA. I provided an overview of my first year as your Chief Executive Officer. I shared copies of our end-of-year report. I bragged about our successful Read and Ride program initiative, and I told them about our increases in ridership over the last year. Of very much importance, I also informed the FTA about Mayor Kelly's reelection and his One Chattanooga plan, and his bold new vision for public transit in this community, which they were not aware of, but particularly happy to hear about. That was news for them to understand that the mayor has this One Chattanooga plan with the pillar of infrastructure and public transit. The conversation was not one-sided. I was not just allowed to tell them what I wanted to let them know. They were very interested in hearing about our information. They wanted to know what our budget outlook was. Are we being properly funded? They wanted to know about progress to restore the Incline Railway. They contribute federal grant dollars to that system, and they want to know, are we being responsible with those grant dollars to keep that system up? And they were also happy to share information about upcoming competitive grant opportunities. And that notice of funding opportunity is now out, and so the team is putting information together. Despite some transitional uncertainty at the federal level, the FTA staff is operating with the assumption of normalcy returning soon, and they expressed strong enthusiasm for partnership opportunities. Associate Administrator Pfister specifically encouraged us to reach out to them for partnership as we are looking for assistance from them to kind of raise up CARTA. While in DC, we also joined delegations from the Tennessee Public Transit Authority and met with local legislatures, including Representative Fleischer. We are currently monitoring and preparing proposals for when congressionally directed spending request portal opens. We'll submit grant opportunities there as well. Any questions on FTA business? Okay, moving on. Really happy to report on our Children's Cabinet Transit Tour, which we did last week. Last month, you recall, we were excited to host our guest presenter, Chattanooga 2.0 Executive Director, Carrie Randolph, where she came to talk about the Out of School Time Alliance and the programs and partnership between Hamilton County Schools, the City of Chattanooga, Chattanooga 2.0, and of course, CARTA. Last week, we held our transit tour. The overarching goals of this type of a transit tour and similar engagement really are twofold. Number one, it directly supports our strategic imperative number 14, which is to improve and expand community engagement, which we absolutely did on this particular tour, with most of the participants never having set foot on a CARTA vehicle, which is astonishing to me. But we were able to educate and inform these leaders about how CARTA services can connect children and their families to free resources in this community. And secondly, it helps us directly support our efforts to increase ridership, which is really so important for us to be able to demonstrate. We also listened and learned a lot from the schools and family members that were still unaware of our Read and Ride program, which was also shocking. There are already efforts underway with our partners, both the Chattanooga 2.0, Hamilton County Schools, to better engage those families and students to make sure the word is out there. And before I close here, allow me to thank Secretary Reeves for joining the tour and seeing the CARTA team in action. Secretary Reeves, can I put you on the spot? Maybe you could provide the board with your feedback.
Sure. First of all, just the planning and the attention to detail that I saw was spot on. Like you mentioned, we had a couple of instances where people did not understand some of the programs that we offered, so I was taken aback on that. Also just making sure that everyone kind of understood that he had the right people at the right time at the right place. And so as we kind of went through the tour and saw the different services that are accessible, I was even surprised that some people didn't know. I wasn't aware of some of the things that we have at community centers. as well the library that we had there. So again, kudos to the team, and it was an eye-opening experience. I'm glad I was able to join you all last Friday.
Yeah, thank you for joining. Any questions on this topic, board members? But we'll keep you in the loop as we do these next ones. We'd love to have any one of you, all of you join us, whenever you're able to do so. Moving on, District 5 windshield tour. I'm happy to report that we have completed, another windshield tour. Different than the transit tours, these are really targeted towards our elected officials. We met, this time with District 5 Representative, Councilmember Dennis Clark. Here you can see in the picture, a selfie, Veronica, Scott, me, Councilmember Clark, and one of his constituents, who we stopped to speak with along the tour. She had some issues and he wanted to talk to her, and so we stopped and did so. And the tour was beneficial, I think, both for CARTA. We got to learn about Councilmember Clark's interests in his point of view, what he's seeing from his community members. But we were also able to educate and inform Councilmember Clark about the services that are taking place. And so you can see, we created that same handout that we've done before, all of the caravan trips, all of the Car2Go Go trips, the Route 4, all of that information he was unaware of. And so it was really, I think, eye-opening for him. And this is the type of my words, like, this is the heavy lift. It's a time investment, but we have to do it to make sure that these elected officials understand that we are taking this challenge very seriously. Our next windshield tour will be on June 3rd with newly elected District 9 Representative Councilmember Ron Elliott, who I met with earlier this week. I met in person. So if you are available and interested, we could probably take one board member on that June 3rd windshield tour if you're available. Any questions on this topic?
Were there any impressions that Councilman Clark came away with that you recall?
Yeah, I think in particular, I think he was surprised to understand the amount of ridership that is taking place in his district. And so we were able to point to Rides in Car2Go Go, the new service that we're standing up, the Brainerd Shuttle, Route 4, all of these things, the caravan trips. And he was just unaware that this much service was going on and what people were using it for. So it's getting to jobs, it's getting to resources in the community, dialysis. And so by the time we got to this last Tuesday's budget presentation, he came up and, just said, hello, thanks again for the tour. Like, I was happy to learn about what was going on. And that's really what we have to do over the next, couple of years, is we're gonna have to do this type of lift and make sure that the city understands that we are their resource. And we need to meet their expectations and understand where their pinch points are and be responsive to those. Okay, finally, in my section, I am happy to introduce our new Chief Operating Officer. And so I'm just gonna ask Corey to please stand and draw a little attention. This is Corey Gagnon. He's our new Chief Operating Officer. Corey has over 20 years of transit experience that he brings from Texas, where he was most recently with DS Bus Lines. He's also worked for some of the largest private transportation providers, MV Transportation, National Express. And you can kind of just see in the bullets here, Corey is really focused on outcomes, key performance indicators. And so lots of operation experience, fleet and vehicle maintenance, paratransit, and accessibility services. This is his 4th day. I think it's safe to assume that he is drinking from the fire hydrant. But Corey, welcome. And if you wanted to say a few words.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you all for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity here. I see nothing but opportunity at this position and with CARTA. Love the customer base that we have, the drivers. Everyone's my customer, right? So very excited about having met with a lot of fun and exciting new customers as well. And I'm looking forward to being a part of the solution to the problems that we're facing right now. So hopefully we can make a really good difference for you all.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Corey, very welcome.
Welcome.
Good to have you on the team. Thank you. What's with all the Texans?
Yeah.
To be fair, I'm not from Texas. To be fair, I'm not from Texas. I'm from Maine, a very, very small town in Delaware, Maine. And I moved to Texas for work. So I do have residence in Fort Worth, but I'm not from Texas.
I have to counter. So I was born in Texas. So I said nothing wrong with Texas, but one other thing you reminded me, thank you. Look on this fleet and vehicle maintenance bullet. Corey developed the vehicle maintenance program for Portland, Maine, and that program was later adopted by the state. So he's got so much rich background in operations. I'm really excited for him to be on the team. So thank you for the opportunity to have my report, and that includes my report for this month, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
I'd have to say there's no Texas without Tennessee. We, since we have 4 stars and we gave Texas.
Copy that.
Thank you for the report, Charles. Any further comments or questions? Thank you, very comprehensive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, moving on to our consent agenda. First, statistical report was distributed. Are there any comments or questions from the board members to? the report?
I just want to reiterate something I touched on last month, but now we have the data to back it up. The UTC Mox Express ran the numbers of the previous full school year to this last one. We saw 70% increase over in the Mox Express. I mean, that is huge. And that is a group effort. I know internally, there's been a lot of work. Externally, UTC has been heavily involved with the honors program, multiple professors involved, a lot of social media stuff going on. So I just wanted to call out how massive that is. And just thank you all to everybody that chipped in on that. So
Why is that happening?
there's definitely I mean, we've already touched on it a couple of times, an appetite in the younger audience for public transit. But I think we finally coupled outreach efforts to match that appetite. And so it's really just been a lot of awareness and
So the
education.
reason I ask is I'd like us to do, we understand why it's happening, is do more the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's just making it fun too. I mean, there's been a lot of events that have just gotten people out to experience it for the first time or realize that it's not just getting from class to class, but also on those weekend routes, getting into the city, patroning businesses, all that good stuff. So.
Well, if I may, I want to thank the board and just to remind the board that in last year's budget, you know, we were able to approve our community outreach and comms positions. And so what this is, to be clear, it's an intentional investment to be able to do this work. It does not happen organically on its own. And so all of our efforts with UTC, all of Brandon's efforts, all of Savannah's efforts are paying off. And we need to double down on this type of work. As we're looking at the next budget, you'll see that there's a line item, as we've looked at already, for another community outreach specialist. And why? It's not just to make posts. It is about engaging with people. In this particular case, it's a bilingual outreach specialist. We want to get into all those other markets. So this is an intentional work that's taking place. It's not by accident.
Very, very certain it's not by accident. Nothing happens by accident. So, I could also well appreciate it's the result of many levers being pulled in the actions of many people. So it's a cumulative effect, and we need to keep pushing at it. So that's good. Stephen.
This sounds obvious, but I think it's a really good sign that the more we communicate, or it does, the more people adopt it. It's not as if it's a saturated market and everybody understands it and not enthusiastic about it. It's that they don't know about it. And when they find out about it, and they know about it, they're enthusiastic about it. St. Elmo to this, to UTC, to all over. That's a very good sign of how the market is reacting to our communications.
And I'll also just call out that, you know, as we hope to make this place better and look for more funding opportunities, UTC example is this is a highly frequent route. It has a low barrier to entry, in this case, free. So those are both things to keep in mind, that when it's reliable and it's frequent and it's accessible, that also could.
Then it becomes useful.
Yeah.
And then magically people use it.
I don't want to belinger too long, but I just want to say too, that as we're engaging with city council members as well, and they're asking questions about ridership and these types of things, these are the successes that we need to point to. And so that's what this work is right now, is it's taking the limited resources that we have and just trying to demonstrate small wins. But thank you for the board for your support. But I think we also owe Mayor Kelly a thank you as well. He has you know, been fighting for CARTA. He's made true on his commitment to fund us this year. It's got to get through city council still, but we should owe him gratitude as well.
So Charles, you've now unfortunately prompted a sermon from me.
Nobody. Sorry.
I think the mayor has been absolutely exemplary in his support for the missions of Carter and to enable it. I'd like to ask Dylan if you would also convey the board's recognition and appreciation to the mayor. But here comes the sermon. I said earlier today, I've been here 3 years, actually, it's 4, time flies. And I've learned a lot of things about Chattanooga in that time. Well, one thing, I love this place, that's why I call it home. And as a recently retired industrialist and leader of industry, I look at it with a particular perspective. And I see this vibrant, economically successful, growing city that's got, at face value, virtually full employment. I see all the economic development. I see new people coming in, all these things. And then, as the very same person who experiences all these tailwinds to the local market, but who has to make decisions on investments in expanding the business that I was responsible for, that's when you become exposed to the other Chattanooga. Because on the one hand, if you ostensibly have virtually full employment, continued expansion and growth of a mega employer like Volkswagen has to look at where you're going to get stuff from. Where are the people going to be? And that is where the rubber hits the road in the recognition of the second Chattanooga. This is the 40% of Chattanooga residents who are chronically and systemically underemployed. They perform low value adding and therefore compensated jobs. And they are not participating in this vibrant economic growth and the financial success that Chattanooga first version is experiencing. And if we truly want to unlock the full potential of this vibrant community in the greater Chattanooga area, we absolutely have to break the systemic reinforcement of the folks who are trapped for many reasons, but trapped over generations in this low value adding and therefore financially insecure portion of our community. If we can unlock that, then this town's economic growth will be with full afterburners on. But right now, we have reached the stage where new investment becomes increasingly difficult to attract. Because investors are saying, I can invest the money, but where will I get the people from? And you have this conflict of a large portion of our people being there, but not having the skills or the experience to do these higher value adding roles. So it's like you're locked and it's frustrating. That is why I am here. Because we can and must change this. And what is the reason for this sermon today? I know that the mayor has been absolutely vocal in his support and recognition of the key role that Carter plays in unlocking this dilemma that I've described. I also recognize that our city councillors right now are reflecting on a myriad of other budgetary demands. You know, it's like this when the resources are like this. But I don't want to let this opportunity go to waste. And then I'm going to ask you to a little bit accept that I'm preaching to the converted, but also to take this messaging back because it's worth reinforcing once again to our city councillors who have to make these difficult decisions now on resource allocation. Unlocking this situation that I've just described is complex and multidimensional. But there are a couple of things that rise to the surface because you have to discriminate and distinguish between root cause and effect and focus on root cause issues first. That will have the effect of resolving the domino principle. If we want to continue to attract new investment and continue to drive economic growth for Chattanooga, we have to increase the talent pool. If we want people to escape systemic poverty, we have to provide them with the knowledge and skills to escape it. And truth be told, there will always be some people who do not have the initiative or the will or the desire to improve their circumstance in life. And they will continue to rely somewhat disproportionately on social services and welfare benefits and housing support and child support and food stamps and all those things. But we have to give people the opportunity to enable them to aspire to more. And by doing that means education, giving people the skills for the new technologies where the world is moving so rapidly. Equip them with the knowledge and skills and expertise. That means education. And it's education for literally from preschool right through to adult education. We have to continue to invest in dramatically improving what we teach, the number of opportunities and access to education. Another thing that we need to do is to absolutely unlock the labor force by investing far more heavily into daycare facilities for single parents. The old time when you had multi-generational people here and the grandma and grandpa took care of the kids is no more. And people are being kept out of the workforce because they got to mind the kids. And if they don't mind the kids, we know idle time brings idle things. Now, what is the point of all this? It's the central role that Carter can play in getting people to the places where they can get trained and get educated, to the schools, to all the institutions that are providing right through to adult care. Carter plays a central role in getting people to work. It is amazing. But if you want to get people to go and work at Enterprise South, don't think that East Brainerd is part of your pool of people to draw, because no one can get there unless you have a car. It should not be. And what we have to do to contribute to unlocking this dilemma is to provide, the point was made by Corey, we have to provide a public transit system that's accessible, that has frequency and has reach. And enough reach and enough frequency to be practically useful. If you run a bus once every hour or once every 3 hours, it's not useful. It is only useful when it runs with frequency. And that is what requires funding. And it requires a little bit of a leap of faith in an upfront investment to create the infrastructure to begin to unlock this systemic trap that we are in. And finally, sermon's going to end. Finally, we also face many, many years of underfunding to Carter. We have got the team in place, we've got the operational efficiencies in place, we've got the carefully crafted vision for what Carter needs to be. But it needs to be funded in order to become real. And that would be my message to the team, to our community, but very importantly to our city councillors, as they now need to reflect. This decision on funding Carter is much more than just giving money to the bus company. It is an investment in the economic future development of our community. End of sermon. Thank you. Feel passionately about this thing, forgive me. All right. I suppose we should, there are no more comments or questions about the consent agenda and the statistical report. Can I have a motion to accept the statistical report as distributed? Make a motion. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
I.
Any opposed? Philip, thank you very much. Action items. Ms. Spendthrift,
All in good places, though. You spend it in good places.
Good morning, Chairman Denison, Board of Directors, Carter colleagues, Mr. Frazier and the public. I'll be going over the procurement report for May, and it can be found on page 18 of your packet. This month, I'm bringing reports for sections A, B, and C, which is board approval of new procurements over 50,000, board approval of the use of the request for proposals process, and report on a sole source procurement. For section A, staff is requesting approval of a 5-year agreement for pest control services. Staff is recommending that Carta enter into a contract with Lookout Pest Control for a not to exceed amount of $73,500 over a 5-year period. This includes monthly service at 1617 and 1617B Wilcox, which includes the maintenance area, the incline upper and lower stations, Shuttle Park North, Shuttle Park South, and the Ray Evans Transit Center on East 12th Street. Buses and vans will receive pest control 2 times per month. This procurement was completed through a request for proposals process. On February 4th, 2025, Carter released the RFP for pest control services, advertised this procurement in the Chattanooga Times Free Press, included a link to the RFP on Carter's website, and sent the RFP to 6 firms. Carter utilized the following evaluation criteria as part of the request for proposals process: experience 30%, firm reputation 30%, and price proposal 40%. Going on to section B, staff is also requesting approval of the use of the request for proposals process for the following procurements. The current scope of work for these procurements requires that evaluation criteria other than price be considered when awarding contracts for these services. And the first is microtransit and paratransit scheduling software as a service. This is for commingling of car-to-go and caravan trips, including a customer-facing application for scheduling rides. And the second item is employee recruitment services. Evaluation criteria would include recruitment specialty, relevant overall experience, and a price proposal. Going on to section C. I'm going to do an update to the Incline Railway maintenance track work item from the last committee meeting. The timber purchase for this work has been ordered and was delivered on May 8th. Staff is recommending award to Railworks for a not to exceed amount of $217,016. This is a sole source procurement. Carta evaluated available information to determine the reasonableness of costs. Our third-party engineer, CSR Engineering, provided a budgetary estimate of $163,000. Staff have determined the cost to be fair and reasonable based on elements of cost provided by Railworks, which include direct costs of $160,136 for 1,226 work hours. That includes labor, owned equipment, rental equipment, supplies, fees, and disposal. Railworks has indicated that they would be providing a 5-person crew working 10 hours a day. Also included is indirect costs of around $17,000 for 160 work hours. That includes labor, owned equipment, and disposal. This represents an approximate indirect cost rate of 10%, which is generally considered reasonable for most industries. And finally, a profit of around $39,000. This represents an estimated profit margin of 18%, which is considered reasonable for railroad construction, particularly when taking into account the unique nature of the incline railway with slopes that are not typical in traditional railroad construction. Staff recommends the sole source procurement method for this work, as there would be increases to cost should this work be delayed. Railworks is already mobilized at the site, completing work due to the fire at the incline. Mobilization costs for the winter of 2026 are estimated at approximately $25,000. In addition, Carter would have to close the incline for 3 to 4 weeks in the winter, foregoing revenue of between $96,000 and $128,000. I'll pause if there's any questions. Okay.
I'm somewhat amused that the cost is $217,016.
Oh, $16, yes. If there's no other questions, I'll say, to summarize, staff is recommending the board approve Carta to move forward with a contract associated with section A, improve the use of their RFP process for work outlined in section B. Section C is for informational reporting. And that concludes my report. But again, if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them now.
Great, Marcus. Oh, thank you so much.
So I also recognize Annie, your work in following the Japanese Namawashi process of really ensuring that all the board members are very well informed prior to you coming to ask for formal authorization, so that people have the full picture and all the detail and things that we usually don't have the time to discuss here. So I think in that process, it's taken care of many of the questions already. Also, by the way, I think it's fair to say that the work that procurement has done to help contribute towards the speedy resolution of the challenges at the incline must be noted. You know, you've been a big enabler of that process too. And frankly, also have to say, my fellow board members, the support that you've offered to getting things with expedited approvals has helped as well. So thank you for that.
As well.
If there are no further questions or comments, is there a motion in support of?
Make a motion that we approve the procurement report.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill, thank you for your motion, and I think that it sounds like the procurement report is approved. Thank you. Mr. Moneybags.
Definitely not. I'm Sandra Abernathy. I'm the interim CFO and I am not from Texas.
Say it like it's a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. Just want to make sure everyone knows. Good morning. It's a pleasure to present the financial report for the month of April and also to talk about the exciting things we have going on in the finance organization here at Carta. As we've discussed previously, there are a number of things in transition, and I'll circle back to talk about those in a little while. But first, let's talk a little bit about the operating results. And you may notice that the financial results presentation is different than what you've seen in the past. It drills into more detail. As I looked at the financial results initially, it concerned me that I couldn't really delineate between things like fairs and things like grants, and this gives us better visibility into that. Also, it gives us a bit better visibility into the nature of the expenses that we have. So I'm pleased that we've been able to do a little bit more on that front. That will continue. We're in the middle of implementing a new system which will revolutionize our reporting and also revolutionize our processes. As we've discussed previously, that's set for a July 1 go live date, which every day seems more and more ambitious, but we're working very hard to make that happen. One thing that we talked about previously that we're not going to talk about today, prior to my earlier commitments, is we're not going to talk about the budget. We've been working very hard on reworking the budget, understanding it better, getting more clarity into the various elements of it. And we'll be presenting that at the next board meeting and going through that in more detail. I feel like we're making really good progress on it, but there's opportunity to make more progress, and we want to do that as we move ahead. So let's talk a little bit about the financial results for the month of April. The same themes are there that we've had before. Earlier in this calendar year, we received a substantial amount of money for the final ARPA funds. So that impacts our year-to-date numbers. That's the first theme. The second theme is the incline is closed, and that is reflected in the results. And so we'll talk about those as we go through. Overall revenue for April was about 400,000 short of budget. That's almost exclusively due to the fact that the incline was closed. Budgeted incline revenue was about $370,000, and without that, we fell short of budget because of that. On the transit side, fares are down about, our transit was down about 65,000 versus budget. 16,000 of that is fares. And the rest of that is a shortfall in FTA grants received. The fares number is a bit hard to really drill into, because the nature of the budget in previous years is such that there's not a direct linkage between the number of people that get on a bus and the number of dollars that appear in the budget and appear on the income statement. So that's something that we need to get better at, and we're working on that. If you look at the board package that was presented, there's a section on the ridership, and then there's a section that discusses expenditures, and then there's the operating results. We need to be better about linking those things. In other words, I shouldn't be coming to you with a report with a board package that shows ridership up, but ridership revenue down. And
It's a bit of a disconnect.
yeah, and we need to make that connection, and the way we're set up right now, we don't do that. And so one of the things we're trying to do, and this is why we're spending time on the budget, and we still won't be there in a month, but we're moving in that direction of being able to have those connections. And so that's important on the what I'll call the operating side, people paying money to use our service. It's also true on the grant side, and it's also true on the procurement side. There's not as much of a linkage in those things as we would like. So
I just want to give you my understanding so that
Yeah.
I make sure I'm not understanding things incorrectly. Budget assumptions are one thing.
Mhm.
And it might be, budget assumptions are based on best known information, and they may be good or bad.
Mhm.
Then there's the real operating result,
yes,
the reality. And so the fact that there is a disconnect in the budgeted revenue and our statistical report, which says ridership is increasing, does not mean that we are not in fact getting more revenue through increased ridership. It just means that when compared to the budget assumptions, there's a disconnect.
that is correct.
And so the mechanism that we need to continue to work at and refine is so that we can track.
Mhm.
The budget assumptions is one thing. We want to make sure that we inform future decisions on budget planning with better assumptions.
That is correct.
And that comes from being able to track and correlate them very quickly and closely the operating results in real life.
100% agree.
So it's not like people shouldn't, they have this takeaway that we have more riders but less income because the money is vaporizing into thin air. That's not
No.
the case at all.
It's because the budgeted number was not directly tied to ridership. And there's another variable in there. You may have more riders, but you could have less revenue, because if you have more riders with a monthly pass, you don't have the one-off collections.
The Read and Ride program.
Yeah.
is Also for
Exactly.
federal riders.
Exactly. So there's not a one-for-one connection with those things. And that's true across this business, and understanding that and building that into the budget is something new for us, and something that is not as straightforward as you would like. Another example is the incline. Everyone understands that we collect money for fares on the incline, but there's concessions, and $1 spent on concessions doesn't go into the bank account of CARTA, because it goes through Sea Rock City, and there's a bunch of nuances and all that makes it not a one-for-one connection. So building all that into the budget is a new thing, and we're working on doing that, and that's why it's a bit of a challenge. Right, moving on to shuttle. Shuttle revenue is ahead of budget, although shuttle doesn't have fares, it's ahead of budget because of strong parking revenue. And that's really another theme that I'm seeing emerges. Parking revenue the past few months has been very strong. And so that has put us ahead on the shuttle revenue. Also, we have 800,000 year to date of ARPA funds in the shuttle revenue. So that's another reason why we're running ahead of budget there. As you know, incline is closed, so we have no revenue there. For the year, the incline's now 2.6 million under budget. That's principally due to a drop in fares of $1.8 million, as the incline has been closed since December. And the lost revenue year to date is estimated to be 1.1 million associated with the closure. With the projected opening date of July 14th, we'll see total lost revenue of about $2.2 million, which will be part of our insurance claim. So far, the The outside cost of repairs have been 900,000. So we're looking at approximately a $3.1 million claim, less the $500,000 we've already received, plus any additional expenditures between now and the opening date to get the thing back up and running. Any questions on that? And as far as status.
What is the timing that you expect for the payment of the?
This is another example of where it's not entirely clear cut, exactly how the income statement equates to lost dollars. So we've had conversations with the insurer, and we're going to be presenting that over the next week or two and getting them to take a look at it and basically process another claim. So over the next few weeks, we'll be seeing that.
Have we had good communication with the insurance?
Yes, we have. Yeah, yeah, they're very open. Really, we're constrained in two ways. Number one, the quality of the information I have at my fingertips is not as great as I would like. I don't want to send out something I don't understand.
Right.
And number two, I'm new here, and so getting up to speed on that and everything else has been a bit of a holdup.
Understand.
So but we're making progress there. Parking revenue, as I mentioned, is strong. We're up, excluding the shuttle related parking. We're 116,000 ahead of budget for the month. And that's due primarily to stronger than expected meter collections. On the expense side, we're doing well for the year. Or for the month, we were $130,000 favorable versus budget on expenses. And that's primarily for timing and savings on parking management fees, professional fees, and bank and credit card fees. I've been here 47 days. And one of the things any accountant has to get their arms around is just how precise is the cutoff of expenses being reported. And in other words, am I confident that all the numbers are in the right period at the right time and all that? And after 47 days, not so much, but we're getting there. But I feel like our year-to-date numbers are good and they're looking favorable. So as we get to a couple more months, I feel like we'll be in better shape there and have a better understanding of it. But overall, expenses have not been running at the budget, which is a good thing.
What we definitely want to make sure though is that we need to work on a little bit the discipline and the effectiveness of our process, because timing of booking the expenses is important.
Yes.
You can't have a snowplow and have it all at the end of the year.
And we're not in a situation like that. We're talking about small amounts flipping between months. We're not going to have a big ugly surprise at the end of the year.
So I should not say that we are favorable on expenses now because we just haven't done the paperwork.
No,
It
no.
is-
We're genuinely favorable. There may be $30,000 in the wrong month.
Okay.
So that's what I'm looking at. And as an example of that, I will say that if you look at the numbers in detail, you'll see that Incline had negative revenue of $30,000 this month. That's because of something popping into the wrong month. That's the type of accounting issues we run into. So that's it on the numbers. I'll answer any other questions on that if anyone has any. If not, I'll talk a little bit.
I have a question.
Sure.
The FTA grant of 80,000 that wasn't paid, why is that?
Which one are you looking for? On
Yeah,
grants?
your second bullet point.
That's merely the timing of when FTA grants are collected. The way in which FTA grants are calculated, we're told an amount for the year. We receive that amount when we seek reimbursement. And in order to seek reimbursement, we basically have to present either preventive maintenance expenses, which we get reimbursed for at an 80% rate, and or we can present cost incurred in paratransit, which we are reimbursed for at an 80% rate. So the amount we're collecting is a function of the expenses we're incurring and us presenting those for reimbursement. And it's not always a straightforward exercise. There's ambiguity in it. And so that can result in some small differences month to month.
So thanks for that clarification. So it's not to be interpreted as reneging on a commitment.
No. Now, basically, you can go on the FTA website and there's a number that was allocated to CARTA. And it's our job to identify expenses that qualify and submit applications to be paid those amounts. And so long as we have those expenses, we will get those reimbursements. It's merely a function of the timing of the expenses. Now, one thing I will say is, An area where we can improve is being better about calculating those reimbursement or those funding requests and submitting them timely. That I spent 2 hours yesterday working just on that in order to get us to where we have a better process for calculating those amounts and submitting requests for those amounts in a timely fashion. So that is a big area of focus for me. And one area, we've talked about procurement, we're talking about financials. One area where I feel the board needs to have more visibility is what are our funding sources and what is the status of our funding sources? I would like to be saying, okay, this is our pool of dollars for federal, state, local, and this is where we are against billing those dollars, and this is what we project those will be in the future.
And how it all washes down to cash flow management.
That is exactly right. Yeah, because I mean, as I mentioned in previous meetings, we really weren't focused on cash flow management, and we're working to get there to where Mr. Frazier and I and others know this is how much we'll have cash flow have in 30, 60, 90 days and at the end of the year. So we're focused on doing that. And all that's those are all big changes. The fact that the organization wasn't doing that and we're trying to get that, those are all big lifts that we're trying to make all at once.
Well, it's part of the process of getting better.
It is, yeah, and there's definitely opportunities here to make some big changes. And with that, I'll turn a little bit to kind of other items in the finance organization that we're focused on. First, we talked about the fiscal year 26 budget, which we're reworking, and we'll be presenting that at the next meeting. I feel I'm feeling better about it than I did a few weeks ago. I see better kind of how all the pieces fit together and what our opportunities are there.
That's good to hear.
As we've mentioned, I walked into a situation where we have 3 implementations in flight, and there's an imperative to get those done. We can't just opt out of doing these. It's for the payroll system, the time tracking system, and the financial system. All of our existing systems sunset by the end of the year. We won't be able to continue on those systems beyond this year, so we have to get them implemented. And there wasn't, in my view, sufficient organizational focus on getting those implementations completed. We're having, in addition to meetings with the vendors who are doing the work, we're having internal meetings 3 times a week of the implementation team, and to make sure we're on track with those. But as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of risk with those projects because we're just doing a lot of things at the midnight hour. But we're working very hard to push those forward, and I'm fairly confident we're going to hit that July 1 date for all 3 of those systems.
Same for those deadlines, or is that gonna be like July 1st or January 1st?
July 1st.
That's what I'm-
I wanted July 1st because that's the beginning of our fiscal year, and as an accountant, that's the way I think.
Okay.
I thought you were gonna ask what time on July 1st.
No,
Yeah.
I just want clarification.
Well, and I'll give you some insight into what that requires. Every employee, or virtually every employee, is going to have to learn how to use a new time clock. Their biometric data is going to have to be entered into the new time clock. Their managers are going to have to understand how to use a new scheduling system and a new payroll system. All of our accountants have to learn how to do all of their processes in a new system, and all of that has to happen in 6 weeks. And the training, we're trying to get all that scheduled and everything, but there really wasn't a path in place for us to achieve those goals before. I think there was an attitude of other vendors are doing it, it'll be taken care of. And that's really, that was not going to work.
So this is gonna be an effort that is cross-functional
It does, yeah.
and obviously under Charles's leadership. But I'm assuming that each of the team member leaders has got buy-in and is aware of their role in making all of this happen.
We're getting there, not as much as we would like, but yeah, we're having meetings with managers about the scheduling and payroll type things. IT, have IT involved, working with the vendors on all of this, and so working with Zeke, who does oversees the scheduling of the transit employees. So it's a very much a cross-functional exercise.
At least we have the time frame.
We do have time. Yes.
We're looking at 45 days.
You are correct. You are correct. And it's a big lift, but we're pushing hard to make it happen. So that's a big thing. As I mentioned, we have new financial reporting that will improve more. That will particularly improve more with the new system. One of my big frustrations is just not being able to get data that I need. And I'm not going to invest time in new reports for an old system, mainly because there are no vendors that service that system anymore. I can't even hire someone to write the reports I need. As we're going to this new system, the first step we want to take is getting procurement, payroll, and accounting and reporting on the new system. Beyond that, there are huge opportunities for automation and making things more efficient. So that's on our radar also. And we'll be, so once we get to the July 1 date, there will be things we want to do after that will cost money, not a lot of money. It will have a 3, 5, 10x return, but there will be investments that we'll need to make on various things at that point. Then, as I mentioned, I want everyone to have better visibility, including me, into grants and where we are
Before
with
we
grants.
go on the ground.
Yeah.
Just looking at the timeline now towards getting everybody aligned and implementing and adopting the new system and the processes.
Mhm.
I have absolute confidence that this has been comprehensively mapped out, all the things that need to be done, key milestone dates, responsibilities, all those things. Could I get a copy of that just so that I can have some own peace of mind and so that we can track it?
Yeah,
Because-
yeah, absolutely.
You know, you gotta know your project plan,
Mhm.
you gotta know the milestone dates
Yes.
and what has to happen by when to make
Mhm.
sure that you're on track. Otherwise, the 1st July will come on and we will be behind.
Yes, yeah, I'll be glad to meet with you and have a conversation about that.
And an important, let's do that, of course, I'm always available. It's important then that same transparency and visibility is added to all of the departmental managers. So they understand their role, they're making it all happen.
That's correct.
Right.
Mhm.
It's not your responsibility or Charles's or Janine's, it's everybody's.
Yeah, well, I've stepped into the role of project manager, so it's my job to get it done, but yeah, let's have a conversation about that. Okay, great. Okay, all right. Grant reporting, we talked about, I'd like to have better visibility into the status of grants and what's coming down the pike on that front. And so that's something we're working on. And then, improving internal controls as we move into this new system. We have an opportunity to greatly upgrade our internal controls, which, when I came in, were not comforting at all is the phrase I would use. I want us to get to where we have better controls, and we'll have an audit after the end of this fiscal year. And haven't really given much thought to preparing for the audit because of these other things, but I would expect that we're going to have. I would expect the auditor to have some findings as they go through the audit. I don't believe the numbers are going to be materially off, but I do believe they're going to have some findings that we'll need to address because of the controls issues, the new system, and
Process question.
process questions, and then so probably some audit adjustments that don't significantly impact operating results, but adjustments nonetheless. That would be my expectation. So that's pretty much it where we are with the status of finance right now. This is, I guess, my second or third update since I joined. Things are coming fast and furious, and there'll be big changes before the next presentation also. Most significantly, I'm looking forward to discussing the budget with everybody.
This audit is more self-imposed, correct?
No, we have an annual audit by an external audit firm.
Okay.
And that is, I don't know, but I assume that is needed for our federal funding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of, I was raised an auditor, so it's something I've gone through a lot, and so it's kind of a standard thing, but in this case, there's a lot of squishy things that they're gonna delve into.
No, I was asking to see if you were self-imposing the audit just based on all the things that you,
No,
okay,
no.
okay, so this is just our regular audit.
Yeah.
For the year.
Yeah, I mean, the process I go through when I come into a situation like this is, number one, I make sure I can close the books. And I'm proud that in 45 days, we've closed the books 3 times, and it's actually gone fairly well. That a lot of times that's a challenge. And it's great credit to our team that we've been able to do that. And then once I have that working, I want to make sure I understand at a granular level what's in every account on our balance sheet. I have not reached that point yet. That's kind of next on the agenda, and I will be doing, and that's kind of like me doing an audit myself. I will do that before the auditors step in, so I will understand what's there, and I'll be able to say, well, this they'll adjust, that will adjust, this is good, that's, but that is yet to be done.
Any other questions? Sandra, I think I would want to acknowledge and express my appreciation for your not only identifying all the opportunities for improvement, but also driving the execution of the improvement initiatives.
I appreciate it.
Frankly, part of the reason you are here is precisely because it was a bit of an opaque black box.
Mhm.
And we wanted to have more robust controls and more robust financial management. And the discovery journey that you're on doesn't come as a surprise.
Mhm.
And therefore, I think the board expresses our support and appreciation to Charles and to you for taking us on this journey of improvement. And we should not say that there has been mismanagement. I think we should say that as part of our quest to improve the overall operational efficiency of Carter, the finance function, much as the HR function, or all areas, and much as the maintenance function, are all areas where we want to raise our game. And
Yeah.
that's what we're busy doing here.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I appreciate that, and appreciate opportunity to work with Mr. Frazier. I feel like we're working well together to upgrade what we're seeing from the finance side. And I really feel like there's significant opportunity here. It's really exciting to step in as these new systems are being implemented, because you kind of have a blank sheet of paper to start fresh. And there are a lot of exciting opportunities, things we can do to basically make our processes substantially better than they have been.
No, that's gonna be good for all of us.
Yeah. Right. Well, thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Motion to accept.
Yes. Is there a motion to support
Make a
the
motion, we approve the financial.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Financial report is approved. Thank you. Mark,
Good morning.
good morning.
Morning, Chair Denison, Carter Board of Directors, Mr. Frazier, Carter colleagues, and the public. I am here this morning to bring to you for consideration Carter Caravan program policies to set levels. I want to make a note real quick before we get started. On page 25 of your packet, on the board memo, under the recommended action, the first line, the word 3 should be changed to 4.
Page 24.
I'm sorry, page 24. Under recommended action, it says adopt 3 distinct levels. We want to adopt 4 distinct levels.
Okay.
So the reason for these levels here is starting with level 1, it is our core service area. So our FTA mandated service area, 3/4 of a mile from our fixed route services. That is our core service that we need to perform no matter what is going on as part of our mandate from the FTA. The service area is trip origin and destination must be within 3/4 of a mile of fixed route, and the eligibility is persons with qualified disabilities defined by the ADA. The fare level for that is $2.50. And as you can see, moving on to level 2, the Chattanooga City Limits Paratransit Program, the trip origin and destination, the service area expands, but all the other requirements stay the same. So it's the same base level service. However, it's just showing that we have 2 different service levels based on this is what is our mandate from our core level. And then the next is the area that we service based on the funding that we get from the city and our ability to be able to put out those services. When we go to level 3, this is the regional paratransit program. So again, the service area expands again. The base trip and destination must be within individual municipal cities, which we have negotiated with for MOUs or contracts for service. This extends that destination outside of the city limits, also the origin, and it also gives the folks that are in level 1 and level 2 the opportunity to travel to those destinations as well. The fare again is still set at $2.50. Now, level 4 is more of a future thought process. This is a premium paratransit service. This obviously would be based on funding, but it would be, the entire county would be the service area. Origin destination with door-to-door available upon request, and reservations for that service would be same day, 2 hours prior. We would have to work out who would run the service, what the fares would be, all of that, but it's just for future consideration. The point of doing this right now is to set us in a position where we can make determinations based on funding and availability of services moving forward in the future.
So the funding is obviously a key driver of execution. And for each of these steps, so the funding is, in my understanding, so for example, on level 3, this would be the broader area that is then funded by individual agreements we made with surrounding satellite cities and or the county.
Correct.
If you do level 4, where would the additional funding have to come from?
That could be from a county level, it could be with private partnerships, it might be with labor forces that want to help support work trips, might be from medical facilities that are trying to get people in for dialysis or medical treatments, specific medical or dialysis treatments. It could be from multiple different types of funding sources.
To be decided.
To be decided.
Do we have the funding for 1, 2, and 3?
As we stand currently, that is what the service that we are doing when we're funding, yes. Mr. Frazier might be able to expand on that a little more than myself.
Yeah, the short answer is yes, we have the funding for that. We're funded from the city of Chattanooga for the level 1 and level 2. We also have grant funding for level 1. And then we're funded through East Ridge and Red Bank for level 4, or for level 3.
The reason why I'm probing that is I'm wondering, are we getting this a little too early? Are we just reviewing it? I feel like and I don't wanna, and I do wanna get your opinion, but I kind of feel like we should wait until we understand the funding sources. Because I guess my next question is, when it comes to the fare, the $2.50, what's the current fare? And is that covered, and is $2.50 accurate?
So everything that's on here is current fares.
Okay.
And the 3 service levels are the current levels of service that we're providing now. There's just hasn't been a distinction in the past of what the service levels are.
But in our discussions that we've had about future budgets, as in the one that we are waiting, for example, for the city to approve, that has had implications for the service coverage area and fares.
Right.
And I think this is Ozzy's question, and this is reflecting the state level as of right now. What does it look like under the new budget financial year? Is it funded, and what are the fares?
If I may, I'd like to just provide a little bit of clarification, and I think I might have, hindsight's 2020, given an overarching statement to the board. You'll recall that last August or so, I brought to the board's attention concerns that I had with compliance as it related to Caravan. And I laid forward for the board a corrective action plan, which included immediate fixes, implementation of technology, And I forecasted that in 6 to 8 months, we would bring forward a policy for the board to adopt. And so this, I want to be very clear on what we're asking the board to do. And it goes back to everything that we've talked about today. We want to take decisions, some decisions, out of the hands of the frontline staff that are taking reservations and applications for caravan service. And historically, that frontline staff has been making decisions about who qualifies for the service and where they can go. But that put us out of compliance for meeting the basic need. And so what this structure is today is asking the board to adopt a policy that segregates the 4 distinct programs that we are providing in Caravan, so that those decisions are no longer being made by frontline staff. We're just going to be responsible for operations. What this does for CARTA and for the board, it puts the board in charge of policy decisions. And the board will make decisions about in the future, about fare changes, about the types of service that are allowed, the eligibility levels and all of those things. And you'll do it based on each individual level. You won't make it for all services because that's how we got into a compliance issue previously. And so let me give you kind of now a real world kind of example, and this has been in the news already. For program level 3, which is regional, so this is Caravan in Red Bank and Eastridge, we don't fund that. That needs to be funded by those individual cities. And the discussions that are going on in those individual cities are very different. Red Bank has already confirmed they're going to fully fund their program. And what they're considering is even doing a little bit more to expand the service. Eastridge, opposite of that, is struggling with making budget. And so they may pull back on their funding. The reason we bring this to the board now is in advance of those budget decisions being made so that nothing impacts our core services. It would only impact that program level 3 should Eastridge not fund it. We want to really segregate and protect the board from a compliance
So
standpoint.
the principle would be a policy approval for the 4 levels. And then it will be up to management to assess and negotiate which communities fall into which level. In addition to taking into account the financial contributions that are required to enable them.
That's right. And this is separate but related. As we bring the budget forward, and the board will remember that in our preliminary draft budget, there is a contemplation of a fare adjustment for not only Caravan, but also for the regional partners, which is a different fare.
Which is level 3?
Which is level 3. And so what the policy is intended to do is give the board maximum flexibility and protection of the core service. So it's set up to enable us to be able to continue to provide both, but not jeopardize our requirement to provide the core services.
Still got another question. Let me go back. Is level 1 and 2 the core? Because this is where.
My question is, level 2 encompasses level 1. So for me, I'm trying to understand why we have to separate level 1 and level 2. When other surrounding areas in Tennessee, I mean, they service the whole city, their whole city. And then even in Chattanooga, we have this inclusive plan, the One Chattanooga plan. So I just don't understand why we have level 1 and level 2. So if you could just help me to understand why.
And then I'll follow back up on that. No.
if there's,
Well, go ahead, cause I wanna follow back up with my thoughts.
yeah,
What I don't wanna get missed here, I think overall what I'm hearing is you all are attempting to put a process in place to address all of the eligibility issues that we've had previously. Unfortunately, it kind of seems like the timing and then also making sure I understand what's required versus where we may have had some people who in the past were using the services and may not have met the eligibility piece. I wanna make sure that we get that piece cleaned up in any process that we lay out, and then ensuring that as we put in these levels, that it's clear, not just to the board, but also to individuals that are looking to use the service. Okay, here's the level at which I can use the service and it's available to me.
yeah, we can try to answer both
Yeah,
questions.
so to be clear, the minimum service level is the core, which is level one.
Level one.
That is
Okay.
what's mandated. That is what Carta has to provide.
So that's why you're defining a level one, so that you can demonstrate compliance.
Correct.
Okay.
So level two,
And, I'm sorry if I may, and I want to be very, very clear. The rule, the law is concise. We can never deny a trip, ever. You have to maintain a certain level of on-time performance. There's a litany, and it's its own separate section in our triennial audit, which will happen. This is the core service, if that answers the question.
Mhm.
Requirements, we cannot fidget. It's an unfunded mandate. We
Okay.
cannot fidget, we cannot deny, we must provide the service.
And that's what, to me, is lost in translation when we went through it. So that is level one.
That is level one.
Okay. Help me understand level two.
So level two is based on funding that you get from the city of Chattanooga to service all of the city limits. It's an extension of our caravan service. And currently, we use the same eligibility requirements, fare requirements. The only difference is origin and destination.
So if I may, then it mimics today, it mimics the 3/4 of a mile what's required. And that's because we're able to manage that commitment. And the reason that we would segregate the two is long after this board is gone, long after we're all gone, it's to set up future board, whether it's this board or others, to have maximum flexibility should there ever become a financial situation that the city is not able to fund their portion any longer or not willing to. Carta will still be held accountable and required to not make any changes to that 3/4. So the delineation is twofold: to protect what's required but give the board maximum flexibility. In this case, there's no differences between the services, but that could change in the future should the board want to, not.
So that's
not a
the
staff
need,
level.
why you need to delineate levels 1 and 2. Today, it makes no practical difference, but who knows what the future holds? That's what I'm hearing.
It's true.
I think I understand that. Can you go to the next slide? I just wanna. Okay, so on 3 and 4, what I'm hearing now is 3 is currently what we have with East Ridge and Red Bank. I know we have some discussion there. And this is where I guess we will look to expand if there are other small cities or municipalities that will be interested, that would fit there. And there are not any, well, no, the service type is the same. Okay, okay. And then 4. go
If I
ahead.
may, though, let me give you a clarification.
I'm just trying to make.
It's okay. East Ridge currently does not plan to fully fund their program. They're going to make decisions about curbing the hours of service, possibly curbing the types of service, eligible trips. And for them to be able to do that without us impacting our compliance, we must segregate that service separate from the program level 1 and level 2, so that we're not out of compliance, so that if they want to make those decisions, that's fine. They can do. Because these are not required trips by FTA. These are
Really
optional
makes
trips.
sense. Each of these bands is
That's
defining a
separate.
particular set of criteria
Mhm.
that actually removes the pressure on decision-making from your frontline staff.
Mhm.
It's a clear policy guideline. And it does discriminate between the sort of base circumstances which are enabling each successive tier.
Did that answer?
It does. I
And
guess-
in practice, let us just say, for example, that East Ridge and all the surrounding cities that are in tier three fully fund everything.
Mhm.
Then in practice, there'll be no difference between 1, 2, and 3 from the point of view of operations and the customer. But it is because all of these things are enabled by separate funding mechanisms that you need to discriminate them. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
And I'm sorry, I thought belabored this, but I wanted to make sure I truly understood. And then on the eligibility piece, will y'all have a separate process to ensure that we are validating whether they're ADA compliant, et cetera? Is that something that you're working on?
So everybody will still use an ADA application. There's just, when you get to level 3, there's a different criteria. So for instance, Red Bank and East Ridge both have an extra criteria that allows persons who are 65 and older to qualify. So that question in itself is not allowed on a regular ADA application. We can't make an eligibility determination based on age or financial status. So those are added to that third level.
Okay, and another reason to have them separated.
Correct.
Okay. I apologize if I stayed on this too long, but I did want to make sure I understood.
It's,
where we
good
were.
Very
questions,
important.
Elsie.
It's
I hope
very-
that Leandra's questions have been addressed. She seems to have had to leave.
If I may, just for the board, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want the board to understand too, that as the team gets organized and we get the right leaders in the right different disciplines, what I anticipate you'll start to see is us bringing you more policy decisions. Policy decisions about service performance standards of routes, performance standards of microtransit, performance standards. We're going to start to bring you policy type decisions and try to get organized here. So I just want you to know that this kind of these policy decisions will be more will be what we bring forward moving forward. Because
No, I
we want to
appreciate
take it
that.
out of staff's hands. It shouldn't be my decision or Mark's.
No, I appreciate that. No, thank you for taking time to lay all this out and explain all my questions. to
Yes,
me. I
ma'am.
appreciate that.
I have a very quick question, and I think I know the answer to this, but the fare capping of double fixture out only applies to level 1.
Yes.
Motion to support the staff recommendation on caravan program policies.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Uh,
Any opposed? All right, I think it's approved and accepted. Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Is there any old business that we'd like to revisit? Any of the board members?
no,
Any new business that we'd like to raise at this time?
we got enough going on.
You probably do. But I'd like to thank the board members and the staff and all the presenters for a good discussion. And I'm sure there'll be no violent objection to adjourning the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.